After all, there's more to it than that. So the third book that just came out recently, entitled Syndrome of Control, there was something I learned on the Trans-Alaska Oil Pipeline. Because of my position as chaplain, I was expected to host or help to host dignitaries that came to the pipeline. It wasn't unusual for me to have breakfast with the Secretary-Treasurer of Exxon, to be with some congressman who was looking around the pipeline that morning, maybe that afternoon to be with some New York banker who was looking over the profits he might make from the pipeline. And I learned something from talking with these people. They don't think like we think. Their mindset, or as I sometimes call it, their mental plot, is different than what the average American thinks. They think in global terms. They think in power. They think in control. It really matters not to them for the dollar as much as it does the control factor. And what's happening to the American farmer today is that they are being intentionally controlled by a design plan, and their farms are being confiscated by a design plan that was initiated many, many years ago. America has been intentionally deindustrialized. They've moved our industry offshore. Then they're breaking the banking industry of America, or the banking institutions of America. Then the farmer, because whoever controls the food can ultimately control the people. Therefore, the farms of America must be confiscated. They must become corporate farms. They care not about the local farmer. After all, who cares about people from the top level? That's the direction that these people think in. They don't think in the same terms you and I think in. So, in my book, Syndrome of Control, I describe these people as the internationalist. There are many names that different people could put to them, but they are a group of people who hold the purse strings of the world. Now, they gain by every conflict that takes place in the world. For instance, #1 Red Square downtown Moscow is Chase Manhattan Bank. It's not there for the purpose of helping the Russian people. In fact, I understand that a Russian can't even have a checking account nor a savings account there. What's it there for? For the purpose of financing Russia's war machine. They finance Russia's war machine. They finance America's private enterprise that builds America's war machine. Every time our president goes to a summit conference and comes back and says negotiations broke down, they love it. Russia borrows more money from them, America borrows more money from them. They finance both sides of every war. They have everything to gain by it. They have everything to gain by breaking the American farmer, by breaking America's airlines, by breaking the American privately owned bank. Let's take an illustration of this. If the local bank goes under, that bank is a privately owned institution. It is a stock holding company. Most of your local private banks are. Whenever that bank goes under, remember that the FDIC or the FSLIC guarantee the money that's in those banks. Now, who is the FDIC and the FSLIC? Let's take those letters and examine them one by one. First of all, the letter F stands for federal. Well, are they really federal? Is Federal Express federal? D, deposit. Do they really have enough money on deposit to cover the money that's in that bank? Insurance. Is it really an insurance? And the last letter is the best of all, F-D-I-C. C stands for corporation. Well, is a corporation a federal agency? No. Corporation has stockholders. It's chartered by either the federal or the state. Then who really owns the FDIC? Dig into the ownership of the FDIC, also of the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is owned by those who own the majority of the stock in the local Federal Reserve regional banks. Is the Federal Reserve an agency of the federal government? Well, what does the FDIC or the FSLIC have to gain by a local bank closing? Everything. After all, when a corporation or a company declares bankruptcy, the stockholders lose everything. The owners are changed. Who gets the bank free of charge, doesn't pay a penny for it? All of its assets, pays nothing for it? And who can call the loans within X number of days that are outstanding with that bank? And the farmers are required to pay. And if they can't pay, who confiscates the land? You see, it's to their advantage to break the banking industry of America. It's to their advantage to deindustrialize America. It was likewise to their advantage to break South Africa. Do you really think that race is the issue in South Africa? Remember that South Africa was the only completely self-supporting, self-sufficient, free enterprise Christian nation in Africa. Do you make any money off of a nation like that? No, a nation like that doesn't have to borrow anything from you. So what do? You have to break them so that you can put them under interest or usury. So what did they do? They broke the economy of South Africa. So in turn, South Africa has to bow their knee at the hand of the international bankers to say, we need money. What do the international bankers charge them? Interest. Now they have them where they want them. They make money off of them. What did they do to the American farmer? The identical same thing. As a farmer said to me the other day, this farm has been in our family for 3 generations, farmed profitably. We had no problem operating year by year, but then back in the 70s, all of a sudden something called inflation. And oh, by the way, who creates inflation? Well, who creates the price of money, so to speak? Who determines interest? Who determines the American dollar in relation to foreign currencies? Isn't it all determined by the Federal Reserve? Who is the Federal Reserve? We've just discussed it. So now let's go back to what they did to the farmer. In the 70s, interest rates started going up. Inflation went berserk. The farmer just started paying more interest than what he could possibly make on the products on his farm. So the farmer became more heavier and heavier and heavier in debt. Then, as one farmer said, the price of corn 3 years ago was $3 a bushel. Last year, it was $2.75 a bushel. Now they said corn has gone down to only $1.75 a bushel. Next year, it's expected to be lower. Who determined the price of the product? Did the farmer? Then did he have anything to do with his going broke? Who determined the interest that the farmer was paying at the bank? Did the farmer? He had nothing to do with it. Interest went from 3 to 4% up to 12 and 15% in just a matter of a very few years. Did the farmer have anything to do with that? How can we blame the farmer for what someone else did to him? Is the farmer broke because he determined in his mind he wanted to go broke? Or because he was a bad manager? After all, he doesn't determine the price of his corn or his wheat. That's determined by the people who broker it worldwide. Who determined the price of the interest? The Federal Reserve. To whose advantage is it to break the farmer? Now remember, whenever the farmer goes broke, his loans are turned back to the local bank. Then when the local bank goes broke, who gets all of the land? The FDIC or the FSLIC? Who are the owners? You see, we have to go a lot further back than just the local bank. Let's go to the Arabs, for instance. OPEC has nothing to do with the price of oil whatsoever. Remember that 35 to 40 years ago, the people who are today Arab sheiks were nothing but nomads roaming the deserts riding camels. How much did they know about international finance? Well, international bankers found oil on their property, decided that they would build their oil fields. But what do they charge whenever they build Arab oil fields? They charge interest, don't they? Well, they did, and made the Arabs. Then all of a sudden, oil prices go down to $10 a barrel, as low as $9 a barrel. Who did it? Does OPEC really control the price of oil? Quite to the contrary. We find out that Saudi Arabia just fired their oil minister. They said he can't maintain the price of oil anymore. Well, I guess he can't. He doesn't have enough control with where the purchase centers of the world are. Remember that the price of oil is controlled by the people who sit at the computers and purchase the tankers of oil every day. They take the price of that oil anywhere they want to. So they made the Arabs. Then they told the Arabs where they should invest. Where? In American Treasury bills, gold and silver, long-term securities. Then they make them rich. They've invested all of this, but how much was gold back in the days when the Arabs were investing? Well, gold went to $700 and $800 an ounce, didn't they? They bought it by the carload. Then oil goes to $9 a barrel. Well, what do they do in order to maintain their economy? They have to cash in some securities, don't they? Can't cash in Treasury bills. America doesn't have the money to pay them. Can't cash in long-term securities, there are dates on them. What do they cash in? But how much do they sell that gold back for? They bought it for $800 an ounce. What are they selling it back to the same people they bought it from? How much are they selling it for? $370, $400 an ounce? You see, they make them, then they break them. They make money on both sides. They made money when they made them. They made money when they break them. And who controls the price of their oil? Not OPEC, but the people who purchase that oil. Who are they? The internationalists, the international financiers. Now, they did the identical same thing to the American farmer. Remember, there was a time when the farmer was making money. He was his own person. He could stand strong and proud and say, I'm glad to be a free enterprise farmer in America. And I'm supplying the world from the breadbasket of the world. Back in those days, the farmer didn't have to borrow much from the banks, if anything at all.